We have identified 100 or so injured people, significantly in many cases, and sadly several dozen people are presumed to have died. Currently, the central street in Caen is closed for the needs of this investigation, and the Canton du Valais is now undertaking an investigation. And I will now hand over to Madame Béatrice Piot, who is the magistrate for the Valais Canton. Thank you very much, Commander. The first point I would like to specify is that we are going to put everything into work to identify the circumstances of this drama. A file has been opened for a fire to identify the circumstances which caused this dramatic situation to occur. There are significant resources which have been put in place. First of all, them being medical services to identify the victims. The resources have been called into play to also, as quickly as possible, return bodies to families.
Well, this press conference continues, but this is where we say goodbye to our viewers on PBS. This is BBC News.
Will require the closure of the district.
There
are circumstances which we need to raise, identify, which during this investigation, which needs to be carried out. And I must specify that currently we are favouring a fire, and at no time is there question of any attack. Out of respect for the families, you will understand that currently I am not able to tell you more, and that information of a personal nature will come to each member of the families of the people affected and concerned by this drama. I would also like to specify that the Forensic Institute de Zurich, which has already been mandated to carry out research investigations into the circumstances of this drama. I would like to repeat that the priority is really on medicine at the moment, where there are reinforcements that have been called from our neighbouring cantons to help us to identify the people who have died. I thank you for your attention. Ladies and gentlemen, hello everybody. This drama, without its precedent, which has hit our canton, all our sympathy and our thoughts are with the victims of the people of this event, which has taken place over recent hours. This drama has affected our lives, and once again is calling on our competencies, our skills in this area. The State Council has decided this morning to identify this as a specific situation as required by law to protect people. This legal arrangement will enable us to coordinate different resources, significant resources, over time, because we are faced with an event which will mobilize different forces for coordination, which will take place over the longer time. Following this drama, the consequences will have an impact on the different services, the different entities, for several days. Currently, by the end of the day, we have several hundred people who will be affected, will receive first aid, care, and will take part in the investigation. We have also an international arrangements as well, because as you can imagine, in a centre like this on New Year's Eve, several countries are involved, which will raise different diplomatic challenges as well. We have therefore a significant situation to manage, which we must face up to. Currently in the field, the firefighters are active. Several police groups are working, as well as civil protection. And we have here, we are thinking of the first responders, the people who provided help to their friends. and those people who were faced with this drama, who did not lower their arms. They demonstrated solidarity, and also the first responders, the first firefighters, the first police officers who arrived at a scene of chaos, a dramatic scene where there was a complicated operation taking place. I would like here to reassure the families of the victims, and everybody in the chain of the emergency responders that we have a clearly defined chain where everybody has their place legally with the skills in this matter. Currently, respect for the suffering which must be respected. So together, this commune will demonstrate solidarity, humanity, which are essential characteristics in the days and weeks to come, and we already are active on this. Thank you, dear colleagues. A word now on the question of health, of the hospital arrangements. So the pre-hospital services, all the CVS services have been fully mobilized. This is a mobilization of all our resources which took place in the recent hours. 10 helicopters, 40 ambulances, 150 responders, health responders, to whom, like my colleague has said, we must congratulate them and thank them. 100 or so patients, injured patients, significant, severe burns significantly, have been directed to the Du Valais Hospital and other hospitals. The great majority of the patients, the injured people, have been sent to the Du Valais Hospital. The Du Valais Hospital immediately decreed a disaster plan and has therefore been able to receive all of the injured. Currently, the intensive care and the operating block in the Du Valais Hospital are full. We can happily count on solidarity from other cantons. Some of the injured have directly been transferred towards other hospitals, particularly university hospitals. Some of the patients are being stabilized within intensive care and will then be transferred towards the major university centers for specific care for severe burns. We congratulate this solidarity between the cantons with the messages received from the government of other countries. And once again, in this difficulty, Switzerland is demonstrating solidarity. We also note that a psychological support centre has been opened for families in the hospital and is being put in place in the different sites, the different hospital sites in our canton. Finally, to end, we want to launch an appeal from the Valais government and from all of the forces involved. If the population today wants to demonstrate support, wants to demonstrate their utility today, you need to be careful. You need to be careful in the hours that are coming. We have the skills which are very used, which are overused in our hospitals. Do not add any more to this drama. We need prudence in addition to what my colleague has said. We need prudence from the population. Thank you very much. I would like, before closing this press conference, I would like to remind you that there is a helpline. The phone number is 0848 112 117. This helpline is open for families, but also for all of those who are slightly injured, all of those who have been witnesses or who were present at the place, at the site. Thank you very much. Is the Constellation, did it meet the security standards in terms of fire protection? And where were the emergency exits? Because we have the impression that people were trapped, were truly trapped. So were there no emergency exits? Was there a failure? Thank you for your question. I will answer, because this is an element for the inquiry. You need to understand this drama took place just a few hours ago. There are many significant resources that have been mobilized, and currently it is too early to answer your question. Thank you. Based on the first elements of the investigation, the media has spoken about fireworks. I would like to repeat that I am very sorry. We cannot give you more information. We know that it was a fire to start with. I think that currently, as I speak to you, information which is capital this is information that you need to keep for now, but I cannot give you more information at this time. What enables you to exclude? What I can exclude the idea of an attack, because there was no explosion of, how can we say, there is a technical term. We have investigated this. There was an explosion. There is a general embrasure, which was at the core. I'm going to, as a former firefighter, he will be better able to answer this question than I can. Witnesses from the first investigations demonstrated that it was an embrasure caused, it was a fire which caused general embrasure. So this is a term which filled the establishment. So the fire was a significant fire. It was not an explosive device which caused a fire. It was a fire which developed with a general embrasure of the site. So we have people who have spoken to us of a significant explosion. Exactly. When a building takes fire like this. Thank you very much.
Bonjour, Anna de Reuters, l'agence de presse. Nos collègues dans les médias, ils parlent d'une quarantaine de morts. Vous avez dit,
our colleagues in the media are speaking of around 40 deaths, several dozens. Can you tell us if these figures are correct, appear right at this stage? And the nationalities of the victims. Thank you, madam. I spoke about a dozen or so people presumed to have died. Prudence based on the police and legal response does not allow us to be more precise. You will understand that we need to be exact in terms of the facts, and today to respect and out of respect for the families. There are several people who have died. Work is carrying on. The legal services and the different departments will be working to identify those people and to identify these people. This also means informing their families. This will take time, but for now it is too early to give you a figure, a more accurate figure. Thank you for your understanding. Thank you. I forgot your second question. We are lucky to live in a magnificent canton in a holiday period, and we are living the worst times at the moment. I do not need to explain to you that in a station like Caen, which receives tourists from around the world, it is probable that victims will be of different nationalities, foreigners, and we will also work with the cantonal police to coordinate relations with the Foreign Affairs Department and other nationalities who will have been affected by the death of a compatriot.
Vous avez répondu à une question, j'avais également le micro, mais peut-être vous avez dit dans cette deuxième intervention, vous avez dit lors de votre première intervention une dizaine, ou est-ce que vous avez dit des dizaines?
You spoke about a dozen, or are you talking about several dozen? To be precise, dozens of people are presumed to have died today, at this moment as I speak to you. As another journalist said, there was people who spoke about the explosion. Do you have any information which speaks about the source of this explosion? Since it's part of the investigation, I will hand over to the public prosecutor. I'm very sorry to once again have to say to you that we are right at the beginning of this investigation. We need to be aware of the time that this will take. There are experts who will need to operate on site, and these experts will be able to operate only once we have secured the site, when we have succeeded to penetrate this, and this will take time. This is too early. We have just a few moments after the start of this drama, and other than thanking you for your understanding, unfortunately, I cannot give you any more information. When you are running a public establishment, you need to meet standards for fires, in particular in terms of the number of people who can be present. So we can imagine that during celebrations, there were more than the fire standards said to have this sort of event. I will be honest, I will be transparent with you. I have absolutely nothing now, just a few hours after this drama, which will enable me to say anything more. I'm asking everybody, out of respect for the deceased people, out of respect for the families, not to make any suppositions. These suppositions hurt the families and are extremely difficult to manage, quite simply because families are waiting to have answers, and unfortunately these answers we cannot yet give them. And so if you could, please, out of respect for the families, do not make any assumptions.
Juste une question, le tout premier témoignage, le tout premier appel, vous avez dit c'est quelqu'un sur place.
Alors, c'est aux alentours d'1h30.
So at around 1:30 a.m., smoke was identified at a bar in the center of Constellation. At that moment, just a few seconds later, the services were notified of this situation, and immediately the emergency response began. It took place strongly, and I would like to thank also the first responders who responded to this catastrophic situation.
Si ce n'est pas le cas, je vous informe après la conférence de presse qu'on a une vidéo qu'on a prise ce matin de nous-mêmes sur site qu'on va mettre à disposition pour les médias.
We have a video that we'll make available to you.
S'adresser aux collaborateurs de mon unité.
Can contact my unit. Not, we will end this press conference thanking you for your presence. We will keep you informed. Thank you very much.
Well, that brings us to the end of the press conference held by the authorities in Switzerland, namely the officials from the Valais government and the police authorities, just giving us a sense of what they're dealing with. And listening to that was our correspondent in Bern, Imogen Fuchs. And Imogen, most pertinently, I suppose, was the fact that we're now getting a sense of the sheer scale of the fatalities and the number of people who look like they've been injured.
Absolutely. This is turning into a real tragedy. The authorities there spoke of several dozen people who were killed in that fire, 100 or more injured. They believe they have got all the injured out. They're all being cared for in hospitals. Some of them have been flown to the major burns units as far away as Zurich, Lausanne, Geneva. So this clearly was a really terrible fire which ripped through this bar, which had more than 100 people in it last night, well over 100, we're told. And for now, the police and the authorities are saying they do not think that this was an attack. They're basically saying they're ruling it out. It wasn't an explosion, but clearly a fire in which many people, it must have gone very fast, and many people have been killed.
Yes, and the size of the response as well was quite arresting, wasn't it? And the number of ambulances, helicopters and responders who turned up gave you a sense of what they're trying to deal with.
That's right. I mean, I think one of the tragic things is that they assume several dozen people have lost their lives, but many of them remain to be identified. So, you know, there are also forensic specialists on the scene, anxious families waiting to find out. But yes, as you say, the first police apparently arrived at the scene of the fire just minutes after smoke was seen and an emergency call had gone in. After that, rescue helicopters, fire services, many ambulances, the local hospitals, and then the big university hospitals put on alert to prepare to receive people with severe burn injuries. So a huge event, responded to quickly, but an absolute tragedy, and what should have been a day of real celebration across the country.
Yeah, something that turned into a nightmare, which is what we were told during that press conference, Imogen. And as you pointed out earlier, they are quite careful, circumspect about giving too many details too soon out of respect for the families.
This is actually pretty much Swiss law, and it happens every time there's a major incident. You know, I've reported also on avalanches and big severe road traffic accidents. It is the police do their work, they identify each individual and they talk to the families, and then and only then are the identities of the people concerned made public. And this is something, it is absolutely, I think, important to the Swiss authorities that they do their work that way. However much, you know, the media want immediate information, we are not going to get the identities of people until the relatives have been informed, and I'm sure the relatives are grateful for that. What we do know, though, what the police said, is that they do assume that there were tourists involved in this tragedy. This is a really popular resort, Crans-Montana, and there will have been Swiss people, Swiss families, but also people from right across Europe celebrating there last night.